Logan Paul and Jesus controversy. I mean, can this guy stay out of trouble? I doubt it. I really do. Logan Paul, he's no stranger to controversy. He's been in news a lot lately, and not always for the best reasons. The YouTube star has been involved in a number of scandals over the years, and his latest is sure to ruffle some feathers. I'm sure that we can all agree that he has this history of pushing the envelope and testing the limits of what was acceptable on YouTube. In the past, he posted a video on his YouTube channel in which he made fun of a dead body he found in Japan's so-called suicide forest. This video sparked outrage, and many people called for Logan Paul to be banned from YouTube. Some Christians are even comparing him right now, because of the controversy, to Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus Christ. Logan has since apologized for the video, saying that he did not mean to disrespect the deceased. Now, Logan Paul is back in the news again, this time for a video in which he appears to mock Jesus Christ and Christianity. In the clip, Paul can be seen walking around with a fake beard and crucifix while cracking jokes about how Jesus is coming back soon and anyone who doesn't believe in Jesus will go to hell. He also is seen making fun of the Bible and stating that Jesus was nothing more than a fictional character made up by some guy. Needless to say, this has caused quite a bit of controversy. Many people are calling for Paul to be banned from YouTube again, and some are even saying that he should be arrested for blasphemy. Wonder who would want him arrested for blasphemy. Some have accused Paul of being disrespectful and insensitive, while others have come to his defense, saying that he was simply poking fun at religion. Regardless of where you stand on the issue, there's no denying that Logan's latest video is sure to cause some controversy. What do you think by the end of this episode? Is Logan Paul's behavior offensive? Should he be banned from YouTube? Is Logan Paul's latest video crossing the line? Or is he just exercising his freedom of speech? Let me know in the comments down during this live feed. And of course, I can't wait to interact with you all as we cover this topic, because it's really something that got suggested and recommended. And the algorithm on YouTube is weird. I've never been subscribed to Logan Paul. I've never been subscribed to some of these other channels that I'm recently aware of, like CoffeeZilla. We're going to get into this stuff. But all of a sudden, I get these recommendations and I say, hold on, what is this? Bored at night? Click that button. You start watching and you realize, well, this is relevant to what I do here on MythVision. And it is a rabbit trail. Anywho, before we begin, here's our intro. Welcome back. We are MythVision. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I really want to cover this topic on Logan Paul. And, Logan Paul has a good friend on this podcast I've discovered named Georgie. Georgie is a devout, evangelical, believing Christian. Sounds like one of the born-again types who's burning in the bosom, has a religious new born-again experience, seemingly. He seems to have this close-knit relationship to an emotional tie in which he calls Jesus Christ, a personal relationship. I once had this same exact experience. It was deeply embedded in my feelings, in my emotions, in my thoughts. And so I pretty much constantly, day in and day out, would think about the Lord, talk to the Lord. And, I really have seen an interesting post on one of my friend Tim Mill's YouTube thumbnails where he's interviewing an ex-Christian. And on the thumbnail, it says, that still small voice, it was me the whole time. And that's exactly where I'm at today. But it's not about me, even though I am going to tie in my personal experience to what I see Georgie doing and what I think and see is going on with Logan Paul. Logan Paul is in some deep controversy right now. This isn't the dead body controversy. The guy's been doing what are called NFTs. Not really sure what they are. All I know is there's this scam involved, or at least people were duped, or at least people were ripped off in investing in these NFTs that A game is supposed to be created by Logan Paul, and all these people put all this money into it, and it looks like the drama online is he guilty of being part of this money scheme and ripping off fans of his who buy into him and buy into this whole thing because they're convinced, like, hey, maybe I can become a millionaire. I'm backing a millionaire. Look how successful this YouTuber turned millionaire Logan Paul turned out to be. Look at his brother. Jake Paul's pretty much fighting every MMA fighter out there. I'm interested to see that fight with Andrew Tate. I think Jake Paul would probably win, being he's been so saturated in boxing. Kickboxing would be a different question. Anywho, I dropped a poll in the chat. I hope everybody checks it out. If you don't know anything about it, don't worry about voting. But in this chat here in the live feed, you can vote and say whether or not you think Logan crossed the line. He didn't, or he kind of, sort of, yes and no. And I feel like the kind of, sort of, maybe. But at the same time, when you're being pressured, when you have a friend who's a devout, born again, and they really constantly want to bring up their faith, they really want to exercise that and vocalize it, and you're on a platform that's kind of open to being controversial about stuff, it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Very difficult. Real quick, I figure for our friend in the chat, Salvation, thought I wouldn't bring it up. Look, if you want to super chat and help us out here at MythVision, you can. But you will burn in Tartarus and be tossed into the pit, Salvation says. And I don't know who this person is, right? Random person. I just make a thumbnail where I put quotations where Logan Paul actually says on his podcast, God has kicked me in the dick, or something to this effect, because life's been tough right now for Logan, he says. Things have been difficult. So this comes out of nowhere because of my channel and what I do, being critical of religion, critical of Christianity, mostly because it's what I know. And I have so many academics that come on all the time. But can you imagine being Logan Paul for 1 second? You have a friend that you know is a very emotional Christian, devout, loves Jesus. And in his ideology, in his belief system, he's your best friend. He literally is believing, until you become like him and believe like him and adopt his ideology, like this person right here, shoving the nonsense, and yes, nonsense, just like Logan Paul's calling it, silliness, nonsense, down people's throats. You will burn in Tartarus and be tossed into the pit. And I didn't plan this. I don't know who Salvation is, but you're literally proving the point. You're proving the point. Should Logan Paul be allowed to sit here and be that critical and say he thinks that Christianity is silly, or that he thinks the religion is not true? It isn't true. It's nonsense in his mind. Can he do that? Can he even go so far as to be disrespectful toward an ideology he finds ridiculous? I mean, there are certain lines you might want to tote because they're your friends. You respect your friends. You're trying not to be embarrassing to them if you consider them friends. But at the same time, what if that friend, suppose me and Salvation here are really good friends, and Salvation always told me about God's threat to burning and killing me and cooking me for all eternity in hell, and then goes on to say, I bet he won't read that live, only Christ can save you, Derek. I'm helping you. They believe they're actually helping you. Consider yourself warned by a messenger of God Most High, El Elyon, who loves you. But he's willing and ready to burn me for all eternity. And this goes back to that, what is that, George Carlos, stand-up comedian, cook you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, but I love you. This is what it sounds like now. And I know what it was like to be religious, to be Georgie. I know exactly what that's like. And while I was Georgie in my mind, God did love me. And I was really giving my friends messages to keep them from burning in this place I've never seen. I have no evidence exists, but I really, truly experienced something that made me think, and I was assured it's real. Jesus is in me. I know this. And so anyway, Salvation probably feels like this is true and really is convicted. And at the end of the day, I think it's not true. So we have two voices, two opinions. And the controversy continues. So anyway, welcome into the chat tonight, everybody. I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and I hope you're having a wonderful holidays, New Year. We're about to have a heck of a 2023. Things are going down for sure. So I really appreciate you tuning in. And another one here, Hell Jumper says, hell is where all the cool people are anyway. So of course, salvation might take that as mockery or some joke. We also have another person I think is important to highlight here, and that is Justin Johnson, right? Justin Johnson's here. God's judgment is coming soon to all. God blessed me with an open vision. Good for you. Of it along with giving two of my children rapture dreams, also mock away God said you would. So like Justin's like already anticipating that what he's saying is going to sound ridiculous to people who don't believe it and think that this is silly and, don't buy into it. So that when he says also mock away, this is the sad thing about this kind of affair right here. That in the person here, I can't psychoanalyze them completely, but I know from experience when I was a Christian, we almost want to be persecuted. We almost want you to mock what we believe. You're giving them the gratification by mocking what their belief system is or what they believe. And then they literally somehow will believe even more. I knew it. I knew you were going to mock what I said. This validates and proves my point. God, you're real. And this is true. By the way, Justin, I've had dreams as well. They were real dreams that I had. Woke up. 2 of them were rapture dreams. So your children may have had rapture dreams. I've actually had rapture dreams. I don't know about you, but I've had rapture dreams. Woke up crying in both situations. Thought I, was gone and my loved ones were left behind, which motivated me even more to pressure and put my beliefs out there in the open around my loved ones. And we couldn't have a conversation where Jesus didn't come up. We couldn't just enjoy conversations without me trying to save and convince the end is near and it's about to happen. This is just the way it was. So anyway, these were the people that I noticed before in the lobby that had already dropped a few comments. But let's go to a couple things here. Number one is CoffeeZilla. I subscribed recently because he's had some pretty interesting videos. And the ones that he's done lately is on Logan Paul with the NFTs. Where's the money? Some people put in $500,000, 50,000, 150,000, you name it. You can go watch. It's pretty viral, 7.1 million views on that. The biggest fraud in Logan Paul's scam. And that is it Logan Paul ultimately, or is it, who's the guy who does you'd have to watch the video, but there's another guy who is well known for doing the crypto stuff. And then of course, ending Logan Paul's biggest scam. So CoffeeZilla puts this on the map. And I know that this has had to get under Logan Paul's skin. He's done a response video where he dresses up like CoffeeZilla. So he has a lot of stuff happening all at once. Sounds like, actually, if you go to his actual video here, and we'll play a clip here just to see how that turns out. I'll go ahead and make it 1.25 speed so that we're not having to sit through too much once I get to playing it. But what do you meme? Christian apologist, what do you meme? YouTube channel. He's done a couple. And let me tell you, these are it's kind of weird, but most Christians are buying into something's really going on here. And Logan Paul is having a change of heart. Maybe Jesus is tugging at his heartstrings. Logan Paul mocked God and got what he deserved? ? I don't know if that leaves him up for not being criticized for assuming that this is really God working in Logan Paul's life. He crossed the line. And this was 2 weeks ago, got a heck of a hit, better than the other videos that he's done. So you got to imagine, man, I got to jump on that trend again. Logan Paul mocks Christianity, then this happens. So here he is making these mockeries, and his life all of a sudden has been very difficult. Logan Paul's been going through some stuff. Another YouTuber, Christian apologist, Ruslan KD, dropped a comment the other day on one of my videos, and I was like, hey, how do I get a hold of you? I'd be interested in having a conversation. And just in case Ruslan's watching, or what do you mean? I don't know. I don't debate. I'd be happy to have conversations with you and to discuss our differences and why I think differently today, why I was once like you, why I believed like you believe. and how I've come to where I am today and having those discussions. Can we have interfaith dialogue? Is there a way that we can bridge that gap and have a conversation? And I don't know if they would be interested in doing that, but I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Anywho, I felt God's wrath. Logan Paul mocked God, then spooked by supernatural experience. And that's where it comes to Logan Paul's actual broadcast here. Because in Logan Paul's actual broadcast, he kind of words things. If you've watched some of the previous drama between him and Georgie, I don't know if you can see my mouse. This is Georgie in the gray, dark, light gray here on the left. Logan Paul's on the right in the gray and the green plaid, for those who don't even know who Logan Paul is. And they've been going back and forth on this impulsive, I just subscribed today, podcast about Jesus and his beliefs. He's a devout Christian. Logan's obviously not, or wasn't, depending on the Christian who might be watching, going, Logan Paul, God's working on Logan's heart. And then his buddy here on the right, I don't even know these guys' names, but he somehow sides in a way with the belief system, I think, of Logan Paul. However, he's like, come on, Logan, you're being way too much. You're being a dick. You know, you should tone it down, not be such a, you know what. So at the end of the day, let's hear what they have to say. I want to let him say it, and then we can talk about it. Here we go.
Is dropped when you were already boiling in an unholy baptism of shit because of what you had said on the show before it.
Let me tell you
And
something.
so I wanted to change gears a little
I'm
bit.
fast forwarding it a little because it's kind of long. And look, Georgie's over here looking at his finger like, yep, you caught crap by all my Christian friends who are in the chat, probably criticizing you for being harsh and rude, or bickering and being belittling to Christianity as a religion.
Look at this guy. And get ready
To quote
because-
Logan Paul, present thyself.
Because yeah,
I want to.
well, you very much are Germany right now, fighting a two-pronged battle. I mean, you've got your battle in Africa and Russia, and you've got a different front where you're fighting for Jeff. When you make that face at me, what I'm saying, stuff.
Let me see what's going on here.
The following 3 weeks.
Here we go.
He's gonna
Pretty out of line comments to George about George's beliefs, and I said, I'm not going to say what I said. I'm not even going there again because I'll tell you why. The following 3 weeks have been the hardest period of my fucking life, buddy. God kicked me in the dick is hard.
So this I'm going to bounce back and forth between playing what is being said here in this latest podcast and what has been said before. It was obvious in the previous episodes that, like, Logan Paul finds the whole Jesus thing, the whole God thing, honestly silly. He does not believe it at all. This is how he's portrayed it. I don't think necessarily he's educated in any way, shape, or form on the subject matter necessarily. I don't know that, because sometimes Logan can come off kind of smart. You can go, oh, well, he seems like he knows something. He's not the dullest knife in the drawer, as they say. So Logan Paul is saying God kicked him in the nuts. He's talking to his Christian friend. He's speaking his language for him. And he's saying, I've been going through such a hard time. And because of my burdens, because of my struggles, because of the tough time I've been going through, you know what? Maybe it sounds like he's kind of maybe saying, God's trying to get to me. Maybe, as I titled this, Jesus is coming for me. Maybe he's trying to come for me. And of course, his buddy Georgie is literally falling in line with this and saying, like, you know, man, the night before, maybe I should play it.
Hard as he fucking could. It's soon
We call
as it
that
started
a
happening.
God smack.
I went
God smack, son.
There's no way. We started off in Qatar. I got violent food poisoning.
Oh, before that, camera taken away at the airport.
Oh yeah.
Immediately
$20,000
upon
camera
landing.
tickets. We were invited by Qatar. We landed Qatar.
I mean, this is like any little bad thing that happens to me, Jesus or God. And like, maybe they've talked a little off air about this. I don't know. But I imagine when you're around enough people who speak this way, who talk this way, this influence seems to be pressuring Paul or Logan Paul. So I'm going to be reading something after this to give you guys a taste of something that I do today that I never did as a Christian, to understand what I think is happening.
Our camera stripped from us. All right, fire. $20,000 camera. All right, no problem.
What you got?
$20,000, man. That's wild. That's a very expensive camera, and he gets food poisoning.
got back a couple days later. We get to my hotel. It's just little things here and there. Things are showing up. We misscheduled. Again, got violent fucking food poisoning. Next day, got alcohol poisoning.
Next day, got alcohol poisoning. Huh. Dude's been drinking. I've had my fair share. Let me tell you, I know all about what that alcohol can do.
Our luggage was delayed, so we had no clothes to get to our events. Qatar was the first time I felt the wrath of God. And then
he felt the wrath of God. The wrath of God is like a little trouble in your life and a little struggle, you know?
And then the Zilla stuff dropped, and I had some shit happen in Denmark when I was supposed to meet my girlfriend's parents.
You got in a scuffle.
Wait.
outside the game.
Oh, me and Mike got in a massive fight. I got in his face because Nina put her finger. She's a pointer, and she put her finger in Mike's face, and Mike rightfully so goes, "Get your."
And Georgie's just waiting. He can't wait to get his words in. You know, he's like one of those guys. His legs keep shaking. Look at his foot. Right, watch.
Finger out.
His foot shaking. Like, I can't wait to say something about this.
And then I instinctual. I go, "What the? I'll smack the fuck out of you. That's my girl."
No, you said, "Now my finger's in your face. What are you gonna do about it?" I literally just said, "I'm going to go in the game now," and I walked away. But it was just a representation of just how horrible things had gotten.
Listen, I ironically, I defamed Jesus and God, and I felt his wrath. And by the way, I want to make something clear, and I have something I'd like to say to you.
Why would he think it was Jesus or God?
I've been thinking about.
Keep that question in your head.
But I'm going to say that for a second because I want to hear your take on this. But I'm not a fucking atheist. I believe in God. People think I don't believe in God. I might not identify the same God as you, but it was very telling to me how the karmic energy of the universe, this is what I'll call it, just went right back around and put me in my place.
You want me to tell you something?
Okay, so he's not an atheist. He's made that very clear, but he's not a Christian. He sounds like he's somewhere in a higher power state type thing and karma. And let's see what Georgie says.
I'll make this quick because people tend not to love when I talk about Jesus. But let me just tell you something. Actually, no, I don't want to come off like Hunter said. This is actually how because I came off like funny, but I don't want people to think I'm telling a joke. The night before it happened, bro, I'm sitting and I'm reading the Bible, and I literally say a prayer to God, and I go, man, like this is when me and you were kind of like going back and forth, and I was getting pissed at you, and I was like, fucking dude, I know you love him, but I want to kill him. I want to punch him in the face.
I can relate to having these tensions toward people you love and all of that, but it's the direction this goes is once again like the mission is Jesus here.
I want to hurt. Wait, hold on. Let me finish. But I know you don't want me to, and I know you love him, and I know this opportunity between two best friends can open a lot of people's eyes to who God is. So I sat there and I said, God, whatever direction. And by the way, I was getting so much heat for the Bobby Lee thing, for walking off. This was the period, right? So I sat there and I go, God, what do you want from me, bro? And I swear I have 2 witnesses. God says, be quiet and love. And I was just like, whoa. And like, bro, like I felt it, right?
Wait, who are the witnesses?
Watch. So I'm in the kitchen. Belle's cooking dinner, and I sat there and I go, Belle, I think God just talked to me. Like I'm not trying to be like a lunatic. And she goes, what do you mean? And I go, I think, and hear me out. I think I just got to talk out of love. I got to talk out of love. And she's like, why do you say that? I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I got to talk out of love. And it was so strong in my heart, bro. I left my Bible and my phone right by Belle. And
I've had so many of these types of experiences where I've tried to connect the dots to the experience I'm having. We'll talk about this in a minute.
Sat on the couch and I'm just sitting off and I'm like, bro, what does he want from me? What does he want from me? What does he want me to do? How can I fix this? How can I go and portray Jesus in the best way possible? I get a phone call. I miss it because I'm over here. Another phone call. She goes, hey, Adam is blowing up your phone. The guy who works, from the chiropractor place. And I answer the phone. He's dripping wet, bro. Like he just got out of the shower. He goes, bro, I got to tell you something. He goes, whatever you're doing, Jesus told me to tell you that he loves you. And yes. And I'm like, what?
I can't tell you how often this has happened in my own walk in life. And, this is confirmation. This is like clearly Jesus is really talking to me and stuff. And for those who aren't cessationist in the Christian community, this right here like speaks volumes. They're like hook, line, and sinker. I buy it. I'm going to believe what is being said right now. And this is exactly what happens. In fact, many of the Christians seem to be catering to that idea when they're doing these response videos about what Paul said, Logan Paul. And so many Christians are jumping on board, having something to say about this because Jesus gets brought up. No wonder I get a lot of hate mail, or hate messages and stuff from lots of Christians in the chat because this channel is extremely critical. I mean, it literally is speaking on things that you'll never hurt. You won't. There's not a single church probably on the planet that is actually going to give it to you the way we're giving it to you. Put it that way. And so I'm curious to see out of everybody who might know about this drama, what the percentage on the poll is. And I'll figure that out at the end. I can't really see. Okay, so right now we're at 41% Did Logan Paul cross the line? 41% say yes. 42% of you are saying no. And then 18% are like, kinda. And I set up the kinda. I added kinda in there just in case some people were like, yeah, no. Super chat from Wade Rogers, and he's a member. Thank you so much for that. You cannot be in hell forever. Before you were born, your soul wasn't in hell for all the time before your birth or while you're currently alive. Eternity means for all possible time. Derp. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, Wade. Appreciate you jabbing into my constant yappering with my mouth, if that makes any sense to any of you. But I really appreciate that support. Now, I want to read, well, before I read anything here, I want to tell you what I think's going on. I think Logan Paul has been making some serious mistakes, like his own actions, and repercussions have come due to those kind of actions. And if you set yourself up in a position where you're morally on your high horse, or you act like things aren't going bad, but you're doing things that aren't good, eventually, in my experience, they catch up with you in some way, shape, or form. What do? We call it, well, it was the universe. It was karma. It was Jesus. It was God. And if all you're doing is putting some adjective to describe what that was, and that was it, cool, that's fine, whatever. I don't care. You can call it, it's air, right? It's pneuma, it's wind, it's breath, it's whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, in Logan Paul's situation, he is always around Georgie, and Georgie, I guarantee you, speaks about his Jesus. Listen to how devout he was. I mean, he's like hearing the voice of Jesus. And I've heard this as well in my own head. I was hearing things. You might go, you're nuts. You could say I self-induced myself into hypnosis type states, like meditating or listening to long hours, or maybe not even hours, but a long period of worship and getting in there and praying and closing my eyes and literally trying and talking to God, and then like waiting and seeing if I'd hear a voice back in my head. And sure enough, I've had plenty of experiences where I would say, Jesus was talking to me. I had one person go, "Are you crazy?" in my comment section. Are you crazy? How can you have a relationship with Jesus, then walk away like nothing? And obviously there's a huge process between when I was walking and living as if this was Jesus Christ in my life to where I am now. There's a deconversion process, like mourning a love of a dead person, like a dead family member. It's not like, oh, tomorrow I'm just, boop. I think you'd be a little bit nuts or desensitized if your mother passed away, unless you had like this horrific relationship or whatnot. But like your mother passes away and tomorrow you're just like, well, life goes on and mom's dead now. And like you're emotionally attached. There's a lot of stuff there that you have to work through, and it's a process. Well, I started in my process to realize that voice wasn't Jesus. That voice was me. That voice was me projecting as though it was Jesus through the, I guess you could say, the filter of Jesus. This is why when you see religious experiences all across the world, it doesn't matter what culture, they're all having similar experiences, but one's saying it's Krishna, the other one's saying it's Jesus, the other one's saying maybe it's Allah, who knows, whatever the particular group is, because I know there are charismatic Muslims that are out there. Like it's the filter of what you believe that ends up becoming the solution. Oh, it was this God or that God or this or the universe or karma or you name it. And today I now realize I'm looking at science. I want to look at what we can test and what we can actually try to observe and go that route. That's the route I'm taking today. I think this is the best route we can take instead of faith. And of course, there's a show I'm supposed to do on Critical Faculty's YouTube channel at some point in the future. And in that video, we're going to talk about, is faith really, epistemologically speaking, is faith a good thing to get to the truth, to get to what facts are, to evidence, to what reality is? And of course, I would say no. But in this particular case, I think that Georgie's so sucked into it, I can't imagine him not bringing it up all the time to Logan Paul. And is that rubbing off on Logan Paul's filter his culture? Is he now going, God, Jesus, they kicked me in the dick. Look at all the bad things happening to me now, Georgie. And all the Christian world is like watching this unfold and going, see, Jesus is trying to answer. He's trying to get to you. Go to the comment section. You can't miss it. I mean, it's like all over Logan Paul's, comment section on YouTube. I'm sure it's elsewhere in the YouTube world, but they're like, Jesus is trying to get to Logan Paul. Logan Paul, I'm praying for you every night. Like you're going to get it. You're going to get it. And I have the same struggle with my own family, because when we get to family get-togethers, I hope anybody watching, Christian, not, take some notes. Especially, I would say, if you're a Christian and understanding the other person's side. You don't like it if someone mocks your beliefs, right? You don't like it if people go out of their way to offend. And in a sense, you got to understand how it's offensive in the reverse order. Now, if you were silent about it, there wouldn't be a problem. But imagine being in a household where everyone in your house, everyone pretty much is Christian or identifies as some form loosely of Christian. Some are more devout in your house. Some are not as devout, but everybody pretty much goes, it's Jesus. Duh, he died on the cross for our sins. How dare it? Can you not see it? And literally, I've devoted my life to reading exhaustively. I mean, I don't even need to show you I do this. This is what I do. I study this stuff. I know what I'm talking about. And I would say that the best that family does is watch maybe videos on YouTube, and will listen to scripture being read to them by their pastor at church. Maybe sometimes they might open up their Bible to read a verse or two, but they're not like actually reading the stories, going in depth, trying to get into commentaries or figure out what words mean and what is the context here. How did this matter to the original audience? You name it, all this stuff that I'm actually doing. And we have these conversations, and my whole family, I mean, I've got sisters that look like models, and they're sitting there and everybody's just sitting there. We're all having family talks. And I'm explaining to them that, no, I just find this is not true. I think that people believed Jesus rose from the dead. I don't believe he actually rose from the dead. I think that this, along with many other beliefs and sometimes stories, which are actually mythology or legend or historical fiction, they're being believed by people. And that I think that some people actually believe Jesus did rise from the dead after his death. But the apologists want to push everything, crunch everything as early as it possibly can go for them, and then say, listen, they even were willing to die for it, as if that somehow explains that people can't be mistaken, or actually make stuff up. I mean, there's different options. The point is, the least probable in my mind would be it actually happened. And so then my family turns to me, and they all say together, almost in unison, and say, he'll get there. They all look at each other and then look at me. He'll get there one day. He'll come back. He'll realize. And it's almost like they know I'm wrong. The Christians in the chat that are devout fundamentalists, they know I'm wrong and they're right. And I'm going, holy smokes. Like I even called them out right when it happened. I said to my family, I said, think about what you just did. Imagine if I always said to you when this conversation came up, hopefully one day you don't remain ignorant and you actually research this topic, and but you'll come around eventually. You'll finally realize it was you all along, not Jesus. It wasn't God kicking you in the dick. It wasn't Jesus. It was you. You screwed up. It wasn't Satan. It wasn't God. It was you, Logan Paul. It was you, my family member. This is like what I could be doing. Instead, I know how difficult it is to let go of a belief system like that. Sometimes you're so indoctrinated that you can't imagine it. My mom still has a hard time hurdling that whole hell ordeal that our friend Salvation at the beginning wanted to super chat and point out that God's going to throw me, what did he call it? Did he say lake of fire? Let me see this here. You will burn in Tartarus and be tossed into a pit. Like if people were saying that to Logan Paul all the time, and Logan Paul gets like all this repercussion for saying he thinks that Christianity's insane, or if some or silly or whatever he might have said, Or imagine people are running around and they're actually saying this all the time, and they really think you're going to burn in hell. Consider yourself warned by a messenger of God Most High, El Elyon, who loves you. And then he says Christians need therapy, which he shouldn't have generalized. I would say Christians, I think almost anybody, this is just me, preemptive therapy would be good for anybody. Any and everyone needs therapy in some way. But my point is, this person, I really think, if they actually believe what they're saying here, could use therapy. I needed therapy. I still need therapy. Sometimes I do this and it's my therapy. I come out here, I hang out with you, I voice my thoughts, the things that I research, the things I'm covering, upcoming things I'm doing, you name it. And it's therapeutic to have a relationship with you guys and gals and everybody out in between and talk about these differences and things like what's going on. Therapy. But throwing you in Tartarus, burning you alive, God loves you, sounds a little insane. It is just as insane to me as saying the husband who is sexually violent to the wife, abusive physically to the wife, literally physically is an abusive, harming husband. The wife is internalizing this. Oh, me, look what's going on. Cries, needs the help, calls 911. Cop shows up because he's beating the crap out of her, then defends him. No, he wasn't. And it's like, well, she loves him. Yes, she loves him. But is that a healthy relationship? Like, would you say that that's a good relationship that you would want to have? I don't think so. And I'm taking a real life, actual common sense example to point out how it sounds a little bit like that, with God wanting to kill people until you comply and go and cooperate with him. Yet he's the number one hide and seek game player on planet Earth. Like, we're not finding him. The literature that we call the Bible, where is my Bible? This is my Bible from, where is it? I'm going to grab my Bible here. Oh, this is the King James Version. This is my Bible that I read from beginning to end when I was in high school. And I was struggling with smoking marijuana endlessly because I'm an addicted personality type. So I would skip school, smoke pot, and hang out and do whatever I wanted. And I just would read my Bible. And, you know, I'm sitting here like trying to explain how this would seem to somebody who's not indoctrinated and convinced that whatever happens, God is behind or controls or you name it. And it looks a little crazy. And one more note that I think is important, looking at like Friedrich Nietzsche, like someone like him who points out the slave mindset. Georgie, on one of those podcasts with Logan Paul, mentions forgiving Logan Paul. Like, my Lord forgave me, and this is what the Christian Apologist YouTube channels also emphasized when they played the clip. This forgiveness. And let me tell you, whatever philosophy you come from, it doesn't have to be Christian to forgive people. You don't need to be Christian in order to forgive people, even to be forgiving of enemies. They act like that's the only philosophy, but it's actually so extreme of a forgiveness that it's something I don't think they actually practice. And let me point out what I mean. Jesus talks about turning the other cheek. Later Christians, under very intense circumstances in their empires, and notice they're in power at this point in certain empires, are realizing they have to come up with a theory, just war theory, to justify battling against others and not just being somewhat pacifistic, as the teachings of Jesus say. Turn the other cheek, right? This goes even further when he talks about take up your cross. And like, I think Christians have just kind of made this a metaphor, go through the struggle or something. This is the difficult problem I think many Christians don't realize about the teaching of Jesus. What were the followers of Jesus told and historically, even legendarily, said to have happened to them? Become martyrs. Now, we don't know who and what really did what. Okay, we have legends of many of the disciples later describing theirs. Even Christians, like scholars in the Christian field who are recognizing this, will say, we probably know Peter, Paul, James. Like, these are the three at best. After that, you're off in guess land, wonderland, legend, myth, you name it. The point is, they are supposed to die for their faith. Not old age, not get rich and die, no. Like, take up your cross does not mean when the Romans come to arrest you in the Garden of Gethsemane, you, Peter, take out your sword and attack. He literally condemns the action, right? Do not fight back at all, under any circumstances. Now, I don't know about you. I'm going to keep it real with you. If someone came into my household at night and tried to harm my family, they came into my house, they broke into my house at night, or they tried to get in to cause harm, or even to try and steal out of my house brought weapons to try and make sure that they weren't harmed. I can't read their minds. I can promise you I will do everything in my power, everything in my human power to protect my family at all costs, which means aggressive warfare. You have stepped into this territory to try and harm, even if it is for material gain. I can't read your mind. I am going to do everything I humanly can to keep my family alive and safe. That's it. I'm not going to turn my damn cheek. I'm going to hit yours. I'm going to try and do everything I can to stop that from happening. Do Christians turn the other cheek? Would a Christian allow that? Would the Christian apologists that do these YouTube channel videos that talk about this forgiveness and things like that, would they honestly love their enemy who comes into their house, who plans on raping or doing whatever horrible things you can imagine? Would they in that act be willing to let it just happen? Would they actually kill in the action? Or would they just, hey, it happened and now later I'm going to forgive them? And this is my philosophy as well. The Roman Empire literally was the most well-known empire. Even Greeks, during that cusp where the Roman Empire's ending and the Greek Empire's on the rise, even Greeks that were within the Roman Empire were writing about the political nature of Rome and that it was going to be the most successful of all the empires before it. And why was that? They had an adoption program, number one. Number two, they would even forgive enemies of their state. Enemies of Rome, if they would turn and not be their enemy anymore. This is something that actually happened. They'd had enemies that had become citizens. They were enemies of the state, then turned and became citizens of Rome. So, like, it isn't just Christianity. This is pagan Rome we're talking about, by the way. Christianity is not the only one with a philosophy of forgiveness and love. There are plenty of philosophies out there. To capitalize and act like this is the one, well, what is actually taught about this whole forgiveness and love is literally pacifistic. It is like, turn the other cheek. It is take up your cross and die. What did they do to Jesus? Well, you need to follow Jesus' footsteps. Are you going to do that? Because I don't even think you're really, truly following Jesus and what he says if you're not doing what he says. Like to the T, right? You're not actually doing what Jesus says. And this is why I think we cherry pick. Even the Christian apologists on the internet cherry pick as well. Everybody cherry picks. And I hope people would recognize that. But is the philosophy being taught by Jesus really realistic? Is it really the best philosophy to have? Something to chew on. Okay, go into the chat. I am really getting cooked under this white coat, so bear with me. But there's so much I've been learning. I didn't know any of this stuff as a Christian, and I didn't really care to. I did go to college, and I was learning to become a pastor. I was going into eventually be in seminary and all that, but it's once I started to investigate, I've always fell in love after leaving high school with learning this stuff. But once I started investigating the history and learning all of the different things, read wider, don't just read within your bubble of literature and try to find scholars that only agree with you. This is why I highlight scholars that don't agree with apologists, that don't agree with Christianity. And they go, well, you're biased there. You bet your ass I am. The Christian apologists have not only the money oftentimes backing them, they have a church system. MythVision rolls and is only funded through viewers like you. This is alive because of you. That's it. I don't have any organization backing me. I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is all self-made. And my point is, I prefer to highlight scholars, academics, who I think not only are more accurate or at least getting closer to the truth. They're not approaching this with some type of, well, miracles are really quite possible. And so instead of using historical methodology, assuming miracles aren't the case, we should assume that they are real, or at least maybe consider them as actually real in all of these type of pieces of literature until we can rule them out as not. And like, there's different things that I would just go, hold on. Many of the scholars I've been talking to, like Paula Fredrickson, who's like old school, she's been in the New Testament critical thinking for a while. She says many apologists portray themselves in her field. They portray themselves as though they're historians or as though they're doing real history, real work, and they're actually just apologists, that they're not really doing real history. And this is her criticism of the field she is involved in as well. When I asked her, where do you see the field of New Testament studies going? Where do you see the Bible, the whole biblical studies going? She goes, I don't know. I can't really tell you, because there's people who are acting as though they're doing real history and real work on this stuff. And it's really, they're just pandering their faith. They're literally apologists trying to push their agenda. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. I imagine Christians think the opposite. But then again, Christians also think that when you criticize Christianity, like I do here, that they're persecuted. And I'm persecuting them somehow by speaking how I think it's not true. I'm back. All right. Let me catch up with you. I saw a couple colors flying by my face. But you know, when I'm on a tangent, I'm on a tangent. Forgive me for the long-windedness, but I'm really just trying to point out what I think is the case. I mean, we really need to read further than just our own little worldview here. All right. Hit the like button too. Let me know. I'm going to see these in just a second. Type a 1 if you're enjoying this content, and let me know if you don't by typing a 2. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about that, because I like to know what the audience is thinking and feeling as what I'm saying. Dafa Raffiali, thank you again for the super chat. I've seen you around, and thanks for showing back up. Do the majority of scholars think Jesus is not God and not the same person as Yahweh? Also, Bible is not preserved while claiming preservation in Old Testament. So there's multiple questions there. And I don't know, like I don't have a chart on New Testament scholars. And then you have to compartmentalize, what do you mean by scholar? Because like there's people who literally have PhDs in apologetics. I mean, they actually go to college. It may not be Yale or anything like Harvard or something like that, but they have apologetic PhDs. And you got to ask yourself, if there's a Christian apologist, do you think they think that Jesus and God are the same? Unless they're some Unitarian or something like that. Yes, they're going to think that. So I don't know the numbers on the statistics of the majority of scholars. This is where it gets interesting, though. I know some scholars who spout the creeds, but they know that the New Testament doesn't teach Trinitarianism, and they've told me this. Then I've had some scholars who I don't know what they believe about the creeds, but I know they are some type of Christian that I've interviewed, but they definitely say Paul was not a Trinitarian and that Jesus was not equal to God the Father. So the idea that Jesus and Yahweh are the same person is, according to the critical scholars that I speak to who fit the category of saying that's later, would say that development and idea is a development over centuries. Debate from Christians has happened for centuries that developed this. 300 to 400 years of arguing about this question that they finally said, that's the one. And as Bart Ehrman's book, How Jesus Became God, he has a lecture series as well. In that, he points out that the actual earliest fossil of theology or Christology about Jesus, the earliest one is that Jesus was adopted at baptism as a son of God. Actually, I apologize. It might actually be earlier than that. Jesus was adopted as a son of God at his resurrection. My apologies. Romans 1:4. It's also in Philippians, but it's this early kind of creedal statement by Christians that say, when Jesus died, he rose again. Many other gods also had translations. They went to heaven. Notice Jesus goes to heaven, ascends. And then he becomes the Son of God at his resurrection, that God raised Jesus from the dead. Jesus didn't raise Jesus from the dead. God raised him. And so that ends up becoming heretical. If you hold to that idea, Christians actually say, no, he's much more than that, because Christology developed. And by then they're using other literature, Hebrews, you name it. You have the Docetists who go so far as to say Jesus didn't even take on flesh. So different Christians have different ideas. It's like the wild, wild west. Eventually, Christians themselves stamp out the earliest known doctrine and made it heretical to hold to that as Christology. You need to believe God from God and da-da-da-da-da, the whole nine, the creed. Now, the second part. The Bible is not preserved while claiming preservation in Old Testament. Bible is not preserved. I'm having a hard time with this question here at the end. I don't quite know how to make this one out because I don't know the Old Testament claims to be I don't know. It's hard for me to understand this. Help me out in the chat. If anybody in this chat understands that last part of the question, I'll try and keep an eye out, because Bible is not preserved while claiming preservation in Old Testament. I don't know where it claims to be preserved. Maybe the idea that God's word will never pass away, but that's not even like that's not even the canon or the scripture. That's all developed over time as well. That's what the scholars I talk to say. Kip Davis, he's been talking about this as well. Matthew Munger, another Dead Sea Scroll scholar with Kip Davis, is a Dead Sea Scroll scholar. They point out like the canon's not fixed at this time. So I'll try and see if I've got that part right. Gnostic informant in the house. Neil, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the super chat. Go subscribe to Neil. In fact, tomorrow I'm going live on his channel. I got to do a shout out for you, brother. I can't leave you hanging, man. So we're going to have some fun. If you want to see, us laughing at Christian apologetics of like, I don't even know if you could call it Christian apologetics. Me and Neil were talking about this earlier. Let me share the screen. Then you might want to check out his channel, go subscribe, because tomorrow we're actually going to be talking about cringe apologist or cringe fundamentalist. And he promises he's going to make me laugh, but he also wants me to react, and he also wants me to bring my scalpel, be critical. So I look forward to that. Neil, thank you so much for that. Derek, there's only two outcomes: Christianity's hell or the atheist void. No other possibilities exist, so just get saved, right? Or, yeah, that's it. When you're taught and you are indoctrinated and believe this is it, and your message also includes, and you need to tell others and save other people. Jesus is waiting actually for that. 2 Peter 3, the cognitive dissonance in the second coming there is so abundantly clear. Mockers and scoffers will be in the last days saying, where is this coming? All things have remained the same since the beginning. Our fathers fell asleep. Nothing's happened. Where's Jesus? Like we do today. Where's he at? Why is he not here? How come he's not coming? And Christians go, oh, don't you worry. Our Bible says in 2 Peter 3, he's coming. You know how we know? Because a day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. So our time is different than God's, and we don't even know. Jesus doesn't even know. Look at him. Look at Mark. Not even the Son of Man knows the hour, right? Which is a very specific statement to say the hour. Many scholars point out he literally doesn't go down into like the month or the year, or he's giving you a very exact moment. But the whole preface behind it is, these are the signs. We are in the season, but the hour, not even the Son of Man knows. So for those who use that argument, they're not even reading their Bible. They're not aware of the context, and they don't realize 2 Peter was even disputed by Eusebius. Eusebius said, I don't think Peter wrote this. But back to 2 Peter, like this idea is so that he could save more people. So that Christians, God is preserving his wrath at the second coming, the final end, where he's going to burn up all things so you can go out and save more people. And if your mission is to do that, they have no choice but to think the way they do. Or as a new trend has started among Christians, and I think that because even Christians who are bought, sold, and completely convinced of their ideology are realizing, even through that, shield, I'll put it, that force field, how ugly hell looks. And they're finding ways, because you could find theological ways to make Calvinism true or Arminianism true, you name it. Theology can be debated all day long because you could find ways to make things you could do all sorts of stuff. The point is, they're finding ways to say universalism. And Origen was an early church father who had kind of a universalist perspective. Many Christians are going, no. I mean, there's a little bit of like pain, but you get right through that. Everybody goes to heaven. Everybody goes to God. And I'd much rather people believe that. Just saying, I know I'm an atheist. And most people go, well, wouldn't an atheist say like you should just drop it all? Give me the flowers, the butterflies, forget the ugly crap. I mean, the ugly crap is what makes people really lose their mind or need therapy, as Logan Paul would say. Neil, thanks for that super chat. And I really appreciate that because there's so many different things we could get into on that. All right. Scrolling down to the next one, it says, please invite Manam Impun on or Haitham Sidki. So these are Islamic scholars, for those who don't know, or their study and field is in the area of Islam, codices, manuscripts, the Quran, and all of that, the linguistics, the dating, you name it. And I would love to. In fact, I've invited Marayan again, and we're supposed to do something on names and how the name Yah, for Yahweh, the Bible's God, shows up in many of the names that are found within the Quran. And actually seen Muslim apologists out there that were actually trying to say stuff like Yah is a pagan god and it's not the true God, which is Allah, because Allah is a derivative from, it seems, some scholars are saying, a derivative that can come from El. But it also was a pagan deity that was named Allah. So that's another thing. Haitham Sidki, I haven't had a response back from him from writing him. We'll see. We'll see. Yes, Zachary, PhD in apologetics. This is, I'm not saying that it's like a serious credential that, you know, is going to be relevant in any field, but they're like going all the way with their apologetics and to go out and defend the faith and make more Christians. Okay. I've caught up to you, making sure I didn't leave anybody hanging. All right. Now we're going to take a moment to read something that I thought was relevant, extremely relevant. And I hope this little square me being in the corner is okay here. So I'm looking at National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. And this was something I thought was relevant to Logan Paul. Man is what he believes. Anton Chekhov, I'm trying to pronounce it. Beliefs are basically the guiding principles in life that provide direction and meaning in life. Beliefs are the preset, organized filters to our perceptions of the world, external and internal. Beliefs are like internal commands to the brain as to how to represent what is happening. Coming back full screen, I'm going to read this and continue. To the brain as to how to represent what is happening. When we congruently believe something to be true, in the absence of beliefs or inability to tap into them, people feel disempowered. Beliefs originate from what we hear and keep on hearing from others. Logan Paul's friend, Georgie, constantly brings this up. Logan Paul's life turns to crap. Logan Paul realizes God's kicking him in the dick. Bingo! It was Jesus all along. Because he's been warning him. He's been trying to tell him. He's been trying, and he doesn't give up. He continues to just tell him. So anyway, beliefs originate from what we hear and keep on hearing from others ever since we were children. And even before that. The sources of beliefs include environment, events, knowledge, past experiences, visualization, etc. One of the biggest misconceptions people often harbor is that belief is a static, intellectual concept. Nothing can be further from the truth. Beliefs are a choice. Now, I'm not saying that it's just simple like libertarian free will type choice, but anyway, we have the power to choose our beliefs. Our beliefs become our reality. Beliefs are not just cold mental premises, but are hot stuff, intertwined with emotions, conscious or unconscious. Perhaps that is why we feel threatened or react when sometimes uncalled for aggression when we believe our beliefs are being challenged. Research findings have repeatedly pointed out that the emotional brain is no longer confined to the classical locales of the hippocampus, amygdala, and hypothalamus. The sensory inputs we receive from the environment undergo a filtering process as they travel across one of the synapses, ultimately reaching the area of higher processing like the frontal lobes, front of your brain here pretty much. There, the sensory information enters our conscious awareness. What portion of the sensory information enters is determined by our beliefs. Fortunately for us, receptors on the cell membranes are flexible, which can alter in sensitivity and conformation. In other words, even when we feel stuck emotionally, there's always a biochemical potential for change and possible growth. When we choose to change our thoughts, burst of neurochemicals, we become open and receptive to other pieces of sensory information hitherto blocked by our beliefs. When we change our thinking, we change our beliefs. When we change our beliefs, we change our behavior. A mention of the placebo is most appropriate at this juncture. Medical history is replete with numerous reported cases where placebos were found to have a profound effect on a variety of disorders. One such astounding case was that of a woman suffering from severe nausea and vomiting. Objective measurements of her gastric contractions indicated a disrupted pattern matching the condition she complained of. Then a new magical, extremely potent drug was offered to her, which would, the doctors proclaimed, undoubtedly cure her nausea. Within a few minutes, her nausea vanished. The very same gastric test now revealed normal pattern, when in actuality, she had been given syrup of IPECAC, Epicac, I don't know, a substance usually used to induce nausea. What? A substance usually used to induce nausea. When the syrup was presented to her, paired with the strong suggestion of relief of nausea by an authority figure, it acted as a command message to the brain that triggered a cascade of self-regulatory biochemical responses within the body. This instance dramatically demonstrates that the influence of placebo could be more potent than expected drug effect. I'm not going to read on. This is a pretty good long article. I will put it down here, and there are a lot of sources. So this is not just like some guy with an opinion on the internet. A lot of scholars are being, or other scientists, doctors, you name it, are mentioned in the references. So if you want to do further reading, but I wanted to bring up belief because Logan Paul and what's happening with Georgie, this placebo thing, I felt that placebo when I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior as a young teenager in church. I experienced an overwhelming comfort that a Father who cannot let me down was there to protect me and actually would never let me down. And he will always love me. If Christianity never had the hell stuff and the torture and the torment, let's say they phrased it as hell is like, let's just pretend it wasn't a post-mortem thing. I don't think it would quite work because what is the post-mortem solution? Is there some type of thing that goes on? Maybe they could have had a different story to this, but you look at Hades, you look at other places that were Greek mythology and fit it within the Mediterranean world, you could see why this notion exists. Heaven and hell, Bart Ehrman goes into this as well. The point is if they would have said like, look, almost like a karmic, what you do, you receive, you see this kind of in the Bible, you reap what you sow. But hell was just this like struggle we have here on earth, and that's it. And it was clear as day that was what they meant. I don't know if there'd be this much to pick on this particular topic. I don't think there would be as much. It'd just be like, well, we all go through hell, actually. We all struggle, and we do it to ourselves mostly. And sometimes it's done to us, unjustly. It just happens. Coincidentally, we were born in a bad situation, or we were raised in a household, whatever it might be, any situation it could be. The point is like, it's a big deal when they make this about you going to hell forever, and then they want to package it with love. That's why my critical response to William Lane Craig a while back, when I was speaking about when Bill Craig was a young man in high school, and he heard the gospel, and he knew that God loved Bill Craig, theologically speaking, they can still preach that God will send you to hell and God loves you in their head. Even though the only way I could imagine that being the case is that you go to hell and God loves you is if God somehow doesn't have power and you have open theism. I just don't know how to reconcile this problem. And that's Bill Craig being a philosopher who gets all into the word salad of like getting God off the hook of things or explaining things like, why do people Why are people born in places of the world who never get to hear the gospel? That's because God knew before all time who would and wouldn't freely receive the gospel. So if he knew they were already not going to accept the gospel on their own free volition, then God went ahead and had them be born in a place where they never hear the gospel and they live their whole lives never knowing about it, and they die because they were already going to not. This is him getting God off the hook. That's the level he's willing to go to make sense of his beliefs. It's like, yeah, man, you've done some serious work trying to fix that one. Serious work. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. I don't know if you can tell I'm stuffy, but checking you out here in the chat. And I need to see, did anybody put ones in the chat? Oh yeah, we got a lot of ones. We got lots of ones. Nobody put a 2. All right. Any last questions before I go? Because I had to touch on this because I was fed it through this thing you call a phone. And I went, Logan Paul mocks God and Jesus. Let me see what this is. And he said some things. I'm like, I get it. Okay, I understand that. Logan Paul probably hears people like the first super chatter in this video talking about, you're going to burn in hell. And I'm warning you as a prophet of God. And it's like, that guy needs therapy. I imagine that. Did he have to be such a dick about it? Not necessarily that I know of, but then again, I don't know the whole in and out of watching his show and seeing their relationship build. Maybe they've had friction over time. Maybe Georgie has been pressuring and pushing it here and there and constantly wanting to bring it up. And then as soon as he shuts it down and says he thinks it's dumb or whatever, he doesn't think it's good, then he's feeling persecuted. And now he's like, I don't know. Ethios is just got here. Well, anybody has a question, feel free to shoot me a question. And of course, super chat if you want to jump to the top. I wanted to read you some science stuff because that's what I do today. I do the science thing. I don't play around. Here's also the Patreon. I let everybody know. I just went and found a picture of Logan on the internet and got Jesus behind him. I was trying to get one where Jesus is reaching out like, Logan, come to me. It didn't work. Thanks to my wonderful wife who's been helping me with like little imperfections I need to tweak on the on like thumbnails and stuff. We got a bunch of stuff that I can't believe this one has not like gone viral like the other one. Your Bible is wrong. Meet God's wife. I mean, I got this one on the Patreon. Get real, people. The titled it, Stop It. Jonah is mythology. Cut it out. It almost didn't make it. John Dominic Crossan, all this stuff. So consider helping us out there, giving you time to write your question, giving you time to watch your question. Please, please, before I end up dipping. There's a lot of stuff on here, man, that you haven't seen. Help support us. Join. You can join as little as $3 a month, literally. And nothing's keeping you stuck. So, all right. Did we get anybody writing anything? Lady Pamela says, I'm still catching up or still playing catch up. Thanks, Derek, mods, and chat. Be well, everyone. Do you believe in demons or that Nephilim walk the earth at a time? Absolutely not. I do not. I did at one point. So, yeah, the question is, do I now? No, I don't. I interviewed, just in case you want to go check out that interview, I interviewed Michael Heiser, Christian apologist, PhD, though. And he's like that guy who kind of borderlines the apologetic and scholarly world where he says things that sometimes is good, accurate, scholarly, non-apologist type of material. He has this like tiptoed line between them, but I interviewed him on his book Demons a while back, and he didn't even know I wasn't a believer. But I did bring up a critical question about a Dead Sea Scroll variant that is very polytheistic in nature. And like, you'd have to go watch it to find out what he says. Anywho, let's see. Andy says, weirdos. Appreciate the compliment, Andy. Really appreciate that. Come on, guys, hit that like button. That's right. Hit that like button. Oh, William Arns with a super chat. Appreciate you, William. Both the visions of Revelation and the dreams of space travel are equally beyond the reach of humans today. Only God or a new technology will do that. Well, William, this is the question, isn't it? People were making jabs at my earlier video today I did with John J. Collins because I titled it, "The Bible is Man-Made," all capitals, man-made. And on the titles, men wrote it, written by men. And they're like, duh, even Christians acknowledge that men wrote it. But in reality, I mean, what Christian? What Christian are we talking about? And if we're talking about a fundamentalist evangelical who really thinks that these men aren't moved at their own volition, they're really moved by the Holy Spirit. The pen is moved, and they actually buy that the scriptures saying what God actually said, like I say in the intro of the video. And then John Dominic Crossan says, we're asking the wrong question. Why would God not speak clearly? Why wouldn't God have his words be so clear and they're so vague, ambiguous, easy for interpretation, and just honestly sometimes ludicrous? He said, we're asking the wrong question. We need to be asking, why did these men write that? Why did these men write that? It's man-made. And I've been saying this for a long time, but Christians didn't get it. They found a way to try and go, the ones that were responding critically. Of course, there were men who wrote these pages. Duh. That doesn't mean they weren't inspired. And that's why you got to pay attention to what John J. Collins actually says. That is just so good. It's just so good listening to what he says. I hope more people are skeptics and atheists don't get turned off. Don't allow the fundamentalist and the inerrantist and those who get so triggered and obnoxiously want to monopolize the meaning of the Bible and these texts. Don't let them run you off. Dive deeper into serious scholarship, critical scholarship, historical methodology. Dive into this. Secular, if you will, scholarship. Get into it. Because soon you will find out how the evidence and what it looks like is just like if you were a Christian, imagine, and you were an anthropologist and you're sweeping away the fossils and you discovered a human fossil. Oh, we found Lucy. Holy smokes. Unless you're a fundamentalist, you didn't really find Lucy. That's actually an ape. You're pretending like it's some humanoid type form of, some conspiracy that has to come up. But in reality, if you're not like that triggered, you sweep away and go, okay, looks like we have something that is kind of like us, but isn't kind of like us. This is wild. What is this? You get into the Bible, it's another fossil of what people thought and believed at one point in the past. And then you can realize how much people have changed it. Even the most important part, God. God has been changed. And what is their loophole out of that one? Progressive revelation, duh. So God revealed himself to them at their time and their place and their way. And, and then down the road, people have started to sharpen their skills and realizing actually God doesn't have a body. He doesn't have a penis. He doesn't have sex. He doesn't have literal sons. He wasn't really married to Asherah. That, like all of these things, no. God is immaterial, omniscient, all of these attributes that we're philosophically putting on God. Oh, outside space and time. So not material. And we find a way to reconcile and make God literally unfalsifiable in a whole different way. We philosophized God out of existence. And at the end of the book that I consider my new Bible, Francesca Stavrakopoulos' book, God and Anatomy, she has a chapter that I highly recommend everybody read this book. And it's an autopsy. It's deep. Her book is deep. It takes you into God. You want to know about God of the Bible? Read this book. In God's original ancient Near Eastern context and understanding the other ancient Near Eastern context as it applies to the God of the Bible. At the end of the book, the last chapter she goes into, it's called An Autopsy. And pretty much she goes, God's dead. The real God of the Bible. That's why I did a live stream video with her calling it Meet the Real God of the Bible. Like almost like imagine me showing you photos and saying, this was my grandfather. He was very meaningful. and when he was around. And she does an autopsy on Yahweh in the Bible. She shows you how that God, as was understood, as it is written in the text, has completely radically disappeared. And some movements have tried to bring it back in a way. Like Mormonism has recognized God has a literal body, God had wife, God has children. Like that was the common ancient Near Eastern concept. The point is, like, God is not God anymore. God has become Platonic. God has become a Plato form of God and the highest form above all. And that is all cool and interesting and all philosophically, but it's not what God was. God changes as men continue to change the context. And the question I have at the whole basis of this whole dang thing is it really even God changing, or is it just humans? Are we just evolving? Like if God was tangible, sure, there'd be no disputing the existence. And at one point, God was tangible in idols. But other than that, they had, it's deeper than just here's an idol of El or Yahweh. In fact, they might have coins where they think Yahweh like shows an image of Yahweh. It's like a 4th century. I don't know if I saw it 4th century today, BC or 80. I think it's BC, Samaritan coin. And I think it's a BC coin with Yah on it. But once you know where God comes from and what God was to the ancient Israelites, do you feel like you need the God concept to explain what we're looking at? Or can we realize these are humans and their ideas? And are we getting to a place today where secular ethics are actually outdoing biblical ethics by numbers? And we're getting to a place today where people can actually be people, be who they really are without the stipulation of old traditional byproducts of the past and how they should be. It's okay now for people to be queer, flat out, be who they are. It's okay for people to present and to express themselves how they feel and see fit. And there seems to be a war on people who just can't allow people to be what they are. And I do think this category goes right into the whole freedom of being who you want to be. And like, it's a big battle. Anywho, I think it does stem from a lot of the ideologies that we have, religious ideologies and old traditions that we have from religion. Goodness, I feel like I'm preaching in the name of Jesus. But I hope that meant something to somebody out there. Means something to me. Apollo's Christian Apologetics, one of the few apologists who's pretty laid back. Dang, while some of my family knew about my previous atheism, they were never condescending to me like that. By the way, you hell accusers gotta chill. Thank you. Appreciate that. I hope more will. 100%. Apollos, thanks for that super chat. Good to see you back here on the internet, roaming around. I suspect you'll be making content again as well at some point. I really do appreciate that, the support. And of course, I hope you're enjoying the stream. Let me see something. Kat says, do you think Islam or Christianity is more violent? How similar do you think the religions are? By the way, I love your content. Thank you so much for that. This is an opinion. I think right now in history, I would say it's tough what we mean by violent, but I would say explicitly, as far as what I see, Islam seems to be a little more violent. This is my subjective opinion. But that doesn't mean that there aren't like hardcore Christian nationalist conservatives that sound just as militant in some ways as what we see with Islam. The reason I say that is you do see a lot more deaths that are happening, women's right issues in other countries like in Iran and things. There's like deaths in the name of Islam and more radical stuff that I have seen from that than I've seen with Christianity. But don't get me wrong, it isn't this pacifist religion either, Christianity. So how similar do I think the religions are? I think they're pretty overlapping, and they have a lot of overlap in many ways. And then they're distinct in many ways. But A lot of their theology, hell doctrine, is still the same. They have, depending on if you're talking to a Calvinist, depending on the kind of Christian, but like God is in control of everything. And in some way they reconcile that in their own lives. So there is a lot overlap, I find. And then there are some distinctions in the way that one is carrying the tradition and the way that they practice things. Like there's differences as well. And while I find the harms definitely in all, I also value learning the history about these things. It's fun to me. I really appreciate that question. And I hope that, you look into it and draw your own conclusions. John Dominic Crossan is a believer. You could say that to some degree. He's theistic in some sense, yes. But as far as being a Christian, he's obviously like not to the Christians. Many Christians don't think he's a Christian, but I think he considers himself one. He doesn't think that Jesus literally, physically rose from the dead, though. So according to the creeds, he's not. And he was a monk for 19 years. And his name was Dominic. And he says, I stick with my name. They gave me a name. My name was Dominic. Call me Dom. So he actually didn't like when I'd say Dr. Crossan or Dr. John Dominic. He's like, call me Dom. Call me Dom. Thanks for all you do, Derek, for those seeking liberation from the magical thinking and delusions of grandeur born of fundamentalist ideology. Thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate that. Seriously. Denise, I was talking to someone else. They found the atheists are usually the most compassionate people. It might just depend on the person. I don't know. Maybe if there was a statistic out there, I'd be interested in seeing how we can do that. Let me see. Anybody else that hit me here? I'm trying to catch up. Just trying to catch up. Oh, here we are. What's this faith they always talk about? I don't know what the question, where this question is. What's this faith they always talk about? I'm not sure what the question is specifically or where that is. But if you're talking about faith, what faith is, or what the idea of believing in things, oftentimes you'll hear it said that like it's belief in things that you have no evidence for whatsoever, and blah, 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 blah. And really, I think the biblical way I've heard it said is that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you're hoping that something is the case. You believe and trust. You have trust that it is the case, but the evidence of them aren't there yet. And so you just believe, but it's not there yet. It's almost like making a prediction, but having a serious belief that it's going to come to pass. And your actions, behaviors follow that. That's what faith seems to be. However, when you look in Hebrews, it does seem like, they're literally hoping with the evidence contrary. Like Abraham is an old man. Hebrews describes it this way. Sarah, his wife, is an old woman, like 99, 100 years old, and they're not able to have a baby. But then God gets her pregnant. So it's almost like faith is believing in things that the evidence doesn't show, depending on the context you're reading. And sure enough, she gets pregnant. Like, who expected that? Who would have thought that was going to happen? But they believed God and it happened, right? His faith was accounted to him as righteousness. So this is the quarrel I have on the term faith with Christians using their own Bible. I think it's important to do that. Gnostic Forum said, share this stream to Facebook and Twitter and smash the like. He forgot to put in fine print, or else. And I'll let you guess what that or else is. Denise says, I love having the freedom to critically examine all areas of my life now. I missed a jab. Derek really needs to add the occasional amen to the end of his sentences, David says. Yeah, that MythVision guy is going to burn for sure. Oh, I love that. That's funny. Critical optimist, Derek, don't take your past idiotic views and assume that's how everyone else thought. But when I hear it, my friend, when I hear Georgie literally say the things that I've said and sound and act the same way I acted, I'm not projecting on everybody. I'm projecting on the people that sound and act that way. Sometimes I'm not careful enough in the way that I present when I say Christians. Typically, if you're a Christian and I say Christians and I go to describe something that you're like, that's not me, don't take offense. Like if you described an atheist like Stalin and you said, atheist, man, and you said Stalin, I'd be like, no offense here. I really don't give a you know what I really do not. Like, it's not a system. It's not a, I need this thing. I'm literally like saying, give me the evidence. Show me. I don't believe it like I don't believe unicorns. And I actively don't believe unicorns exist. I actively don't believe God exists. Like, I'm not like this guy is like a lacktheist. I'm not an agnostic sitting on the fence wondering. I'm an atheist. Anyway, just like I don't, believe leprechauns literally, or fairies, or, these kind of things don't exist. And until I'm proven wrong, that's where I stand. We got some more super chats in here. Dalai Lama in the house. Hallelujah, brother. Testify. Thank you. Preach. Preach, brother Derek. Preach. Ricky Johnson, thank you so much, man, for the love and the support. Everybody in the chat, really appreciate that. Ethio19, I hope I'm saying that properly. I appreciate your support. I'm going to need, to buy some pillows and blankets in the Lake of Fire so I can have a nice spot to lay down at. I really do appreciate that support. It means a lot. So Mordecai says, we Christians have the true God. Turn to Jesus before it's too late. I kind of figured that's what your comment was, referring to up above. It's kind of, I guess if you were Logan Paul, and as crazy as his life must be with all the attention he gets, can you imagine if Christians all the time said stuff like this? Like, get ready, you're going to burn. If you heard that a lot, would you make a comment, man, if your perception of Christians was this, and they think you're going to go to hell, and the ideology is teaching this because you see it and hear it all the time, and you're a social media person, so what comments are out there, videos being made toward you, all that stuff, and you hear it, would you think that some people needed therapy? Is that disrespectful to say? Maybe Logan needs therapy too. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying, like, if someone sounds crazier than you do, is it wrong to say something sounds a little crazy? I don't know. And guess what? I'm speaking to myself. When I was hook, line, and sinker, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, that's right. Hook, line, and sinker, sold on this message. And I was reading this in high school. I was like visually walking in the garden, and I was talking and walking with God and Adam. I was visually there when the flood happened, and I saw the boat and the animals getting on. I was visually there when Sodom and Gomorrah was being fire from heaven come down, and his wife turned into a pillar of salt. I was there when Moses went onto the mountain and he got the 10 commandments. Like, I visually was there with them, and I was so convinced this actually happened. And I read it, and and then I'd go, bro, Kurt, I don't want you to go to hell, bro. And I'd watch these apologists defend it and show how it's so true. And then the preachers at church that are constantly trying to, reassure you of what you're reading and this is true. This is the word of God. He actually rose from the dead. You don't want to go to hell. You don't want to go. I mean, really, really, like, brainwashed, completely sold on this message. And I was running around, and I was such a pain in my family's ass. And my friends were like, we love you, Derek, and we want to be around, but you just want to talk about this all the time. And I say, because we don't have tomorrow. Tomorrow we don't have. This is it. Today is the day of the Lord. And you need to accept him now before it's too late. Just like the guy in our comment section. I was gone. And guess what? When I was on drugs, on heroin, or when I was popping ecstasy and I was hallucinating, seeing demons, when I was doing drugs other than that, because I've done plenty of things, I was gone. And you might have looked at me and said, you need therapy. You need help. I was hooked on Jesus just as much as I was on heroin. And I was just as extreme. And that's a fact. So if I told someone who's addicted to doing something and I find that it's harmful and it's obsessive and it's extreme, that they need help, they really should go and balance out their life and realize that they're kind of believing in some delusion and it's honestly not healthy. I don't know. Back to the poll. If you haven't voted in the poll, I can't wait to the end to see what the audience thinks on whether or not Logan Paul crossed the line. Maybe he shouldn't have been so rude about it. But I hope you're not taking what I'm saying as rude. What I'm saying is fact about my experience, and what I'm telling you is the reality of what happened and how I honestly think about it, how I honestly perceive it. So is Logan doing it for the show a little too? Probably. You might even say, Derek, are you being really you because you're in front of 216 people that are watching, counting YouTube and Facebook? Are you being really you right now, or are you doing it for an audience? And my own family will tell you when I have talks with them, this is exactly how the conversations end up going when the religion topic gets brought up. I avoid it. I really do avoid it because I know how much it hurts my mom. She's scared and she doesn't want to talk about it. And I don't want to offend my mom. I don't want to hurt my mom. I don't want her to be upset. I do want her, if we ever have those conversations, I say, one thing I want you to know, Mom, is hell's not real. So you don't need to be living a life of fear when that idea comes up. Hell, don't worry about that crap. Mythology. Yes, this is a mythology developed in human systems, not just the Bible. It's not just Christianity that has this notion. Zoroastrianism, the Greek world, this is before Christians adopt this idea. Ithio19, again, I'll subscribe to your Patreon. Please do. I hope that you do. I've got a lot of stuff on there, exclusive content, and you brought it up, okay? I'm going to plug it again and just mention why I hope people subscribe. I'm offering to create, this is a Canon R5C. This is the new Canon R5C. It shoots up to 8K quality camera, right? I have Dennis R. McDonald coming this Saturday. He's staying for 4 days. We're recording a very good mimesis course showing the Greek stories, the epics, the Greek literature, Euripides, the Bacchae, all of that, how the New Testament's using this literature and creating its stories about Jesus. We're doing a course on that and a bunch of side recordings. I'm getting one question per Patreon, and I'm recording an exclusive video. I mean, who's recording 4K? I'm not doing 8K. It's way too, 8K is such a big memory thing, but 4K videos with the scholars asking your question. And then I'm editing them, and then I'm putting them up on the Patreon. Eventually, they will make their way to the light of YouTube world. But you will have your own question asked in 4K with the academic. Dennis R. McDonald comes this Saturday. So I have a post. I'm going to make sure that post is back out again, getting questions. And then later this month, Kip Davis, Dead Sea Scroll scholar, he's coming to my house as well. And we're going to be recording right here. I mean, I got the chairs set up, and we're going to be recording in this little, you can call this a grandmother suite downstairs. And this is where they're going to be staying. And I'm going to be recording your questions again, because you make MythVision possible. I don't have the Pope. I wouldn't mind if the Pope backed me sometimes so that we could really keep this thing coasting. However, can't imagine they would. Not with what I do. I don't have a church organization. I have people who support us here on MythVision. So, Ithio, I'd love to. There's my shameless plug, and I plan on doing that with more scholars. I have a plan to go see Robin Faith Walsh next month. That's right. We're doing courses with her as well, and I'll be doing interviews in person with Robin Faith Walsh. I've got Richard C. Miller on the books coming up. I've got some big names. 2023, I want to make 2022 look like I was sleeping. I want 2023 to be mind-blowing. Ethio, thank you so much. Ethio19, really appreciate that. Love to see you join. That's my shameless plug. Let me see. Scrolling down. Please bear with me. Trying to catch up to your questions here. I'm curious to see what people thought when I was saying some of the stuff I was saying about how I was with my family and obsessive. Renee says you're doing awesome. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate that. Really do. I believe you, Derek. I do. I'm not sure what that was about, but yeah, anyway. Daf is back again. What Marine and Sidki said about Quran preservation. Ooh, yeah. There's stuff Sidki said that in the preservation one that kind of blew my mind. And there's stuff that I have to, go a little further than the scholars are willing to say. about what they're saying, what their scholarship is saying about certain topics. They are not in the game of being offensive or being controversial. Let's put it that way. Scholarship typically is not in that game. I don't mind playing in that game because it's social media. It's the internet world. And in fact, it's what sells. It's what gets the attention. If I made a video saying, the complicated Christology development within the first 300 years of Christianity, and it was like the title, that long title that's all highly theological and complicated, I'm going to get those devout, hardcore thinkers to click. But will it go viral? Will it actually get attention and people actually are seeing what's going on? Maybe not. Maybe we say Christians misunderstood Jesus for hundreds of years, or, whatever. Something that is more general, basic, not too complicated, and in your face. But at the end of the day, it's not clickbait. It legitimately is covering the topic of the title. So I do want to do more work with them. Be on the lookout. Critical optimist Derek, the concept of hell is a recognition of cause and effect with respect to human actions and their effect on the soul. It's not a place, but a state of consciousness. That's exactly what I hear a lot of modern people say. When I walked into a 12-step meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous trying to get clean off heroin, I know, why are you there? Rather than Narcotics Anonymous, I was going to both to try and save my life because I was dying and I was also alcoholic. So I struggled with drinking as well at a different part of my life. I went in one time and this guy spoke and he said, religious people are religious because they don't want to go to hell when they die. Spiritual people are spiritual because they've already been to hell and they don't want to go back. And if you notice in that two different phrases, hell is two different definitions. One is when you die, it's where you go. And the other is this life experience, I'm going through hell. And so both of them are interpreting it two different ways. And what I find happening recently in more spiritual people or people who aren't taking it so literal, they want to redefine the biblical text and say hell in the New Testament is not this gnashing of teeth day and night that happens in the book of Revelation, or what we see, fear not him who can kill the body, but kill the body and the soul. And that there's this it's not about that. It's about this life thing. If that were the case, I don't think there would be as much criticism. But you also can't help that for almost 2,000 years, Christians have literally believed it is a place for when you die. Anyway, this gets back to the whole Jordan Peterson critique I had, where it's like Jordan Peterson wants to redefine everything to say it's a meta narrative. It's not about the literal truth. It's always meta this, meta that, meta this, meta that. And he wants to take ugly stuff and make it meta narrative as well. Like, I can't imagine how he would meta kill every man, woman, and child of the Amalekites with King Saul. The story actually is trying to say allegorize. It's philosophy. We want to philosophize and allegorize these horrible stories so that they're not so horrible. And we want to harm reduce what our text says. The philosophers did this with Zeus when he was raping women and things to conceive children. Instead, they said, well, gods can't have sex, and they found ways to get away from that. So Zeus couldn't have. It's an allegory. The thing goes on and on and on. But I wish that that's what people believed, and I think that's the direction it's heading. But again, it's like saying God is outside space and time, immaterial, all these other attributes, but ignoring what the actual text says or what the original context meant. And I think that it would do a lot of justice to people if they understood the humanity of God, like understanding how human God really was, and the development happened over time. You might not feel like you need that God after you realize, whoa, we made these concepts up. We started to develop our thinking. Bobby Moe, great job, Derek. Thank you so much. Richard says, people say I'm not serious about arguing for the Bible unless I argue with folks like you. Peace and respect. People say I'm not serious about arguing for the Bible unless I argue with folks like you. Peace and respect. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the context is. And this is the thing. I've had so many people go, debate, Derek. You need to debate. I'm not going to say that isn't something someday that could happen. I'm just not like more gets done actually having conversations and understanding where we come from and why we disagree rather than debate. And it's kind of a form of debate, but it's not a dick measuring contest, I feel. And you're not going into it with my tribe versus your tribe. And I'm smarter than you. And I'm going to make you look stupid. Because even people who have honestly wrong ideas that are just not true can come off poetic with great rhetorical skills, like William Lane Craig, for example, and just mop you on the floor with their debate skills. And in fact, they're far from the reality of what the evidence is in that case. And I think it's important that we have people who debate. Sure. I just personally don't get into it. But that's responding to the idea of like arguing for the Bible. Make a video, make videos. People who disagree, just make videos, respond that way. And I don't want to endlessly debate with people in comment sections or anything like that either. Rainbow Heron, what Derek appears to be discussing is a centuries-long human logic reaction to a mystical text. Know the difference between esoteric and exoteric. So here we are again with the esoteric being on the rise. Like we're dealing with a mystical text. All of this literature is mystical and it's completely misunderstood. And everybody has kind of taken it as exoteric for 2,000 years. They've forgotten the original meaning, the original internalized esoteric meaning of all this literature. And do I think there's esoteric stuff there? Absolutely. But do I think that this literature is all esoteric? Absolutely not. And so this is the thing I think, there needs to be a balance here. There needs to be a balance in understanding what is going on with the literature. This is why I go to the scholarship, because they see this stuff as well. You like the video I did on Jordan Peterson? Cool. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Ethio, thank you so much for that. Appreciate the support earlier, super chats, and the compliments. I think we're pretty much here towards the end. Yes, we are. I've been on for quite a while. I wanted to spend some time with you because I've been dropping a lot of pre-records. Haven't hung out with you doing live streams. And if you have any questions or something you really want to get off your chest, you could super chat it now and I'll take it. But in the meantime, I figure I'd respond to Logan Paul. What's going on with this controversy between him and his best friend or one of his best friends, Georgie, who's a devout fundamentalist Christian? And how is that relationship going to work itself out, as devout as Georgie is, unless Logan comes around in some way? Will Georgie always be hanging on by the edge of his seat saying, maybe now he'll finally get it. Maybe now he's going to come to the Lord. Maybe now he'll become a Christian. Is that how the relationship will always be, that Georgie's always hoping and anticipating that he will finally become a Christian one day? What will the relationship become? What if Logan uses his knowledge, uses the brain he has, goes and studies this stuff in depth and walks away like I am as a skeptic? Will their relationship be okay? And will Georgie be okay if he was vocalizing his criticisms of Christianity? Could he still be his friend? Could he still not go out there and feel like he has a persecution complex because Logan Paul is seeing fault or problems or errors, whatever he might point out about the Bible if it ever came up? Is that something that would happen? Or did this whole controversy on this, what is the name of his podcast? Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul and Georgie. Did this whole controversy possibly not help the following, not help their podcast? And they go, okay, let's just drop the shtick. Here's the new rule, Georgie. Don't talk about Jesus. I won't criticize Jesus. We squashed it out of the way. Let's keep moving forward. I don't know. So is there some statistics, monetary reason not to communicate about it? You never know. You never know. So we're going to check out this poll. And I want to see, I'm going to end the poll now. Did I just end it and it disappeared? You got to be kidding me. What the heck? Okay, there it is. It pops up. Woo! It's my first time doing a poll. So did Logan Paul cross the line? 40% said yes. 39% said no. 19% say kinda. And I feel like I fall in the kinda personally, even if I were to agree with criticisms, let's say, maybe I think some things are silly. And the things that he mocked about was like, you're going to hell. As I brought up at the beginning, one of the things that I think Christians were doing, let's see, what was he saying? He says, Jesus is coming back soon, right? Christians who think Jesus is coming back soon. And anyone who doesn't believe Jesus, or anyone who doesn't believe in Jesus, will go to hell. He said these things. He thought it was obviously silly. He also made a couple things that I think he crossed the line talking about Jesus. He's like being harsh, using words I don't want to use on YouTube because it might ding me. But yeah, I think he crossed some lines, but I also don't think he necessarily crossed the line. There are some things I don't think he did. And that's why I fall in the kinda category. And it's interesting to see what everyone else voted. Looks like a tight poll. Yeah. Yeah, I was strong kinda. Yeah, I'm in the kinda. But yeah. Anyways, I really appreciate everybody, all the support. Like the videos, share it out there. I hope you enjoyed the content. It'd be amazing. I would just not know what to do with myself if Logan Paul like contacted me and said, "Hey, we want to have you on the podcast." I doubt it would ever happen, but it would be really interesting. We want to have you on the podcast to have the conversation, and you can talk with Georgie and you can talk with Logan. And I just don't see them wanting to do that. I would love to have that conversation. And, but wishful thinking, right? Don't live in a delusion, Derek. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much, everybody who's been here. Please check out our Patreon and drop a comment after the live stream. Just show me you're alive and you're well after the New Year's. People get a little wild during these times. Thank you.